Hello, welcome back to another of my pipe smoking videos. It's very kind of you to join me. I'm wearing this little apron. I've just been baking, well, I've been kneading some bread, which I'm waiting now to prove, and then I can get it into the oven, which I have yet to light. But it'll take an hour or so to do that, so obviously didn't want to get flour all over me. I do enjoy making bread. Do you do something that you enjoy making that you can then later on either eat or look back at and go, oh, I did that, and be quite pleased with? Well, I do that with bread because very often some of the bread that you can buy in the shops is not as nice and it's full of other ingredients than if you make it yourself. Although sometimes when I've made bread, it can go all wrong and it just sort of flops down. Fortunately for me, I've got a wood burning stove, so it cooks in a, well, it just cooks much nicer, I think, than a gas stove, but that's not to say that that is the case. Now, I'm going to be smoking something, but before I do that, I forgot to just give my lighter a quick blast of gas. It's got, I suppose it's LPG, is it gas? Something like that. No, is it butane? Probably butane gas, isn't it? Or the other one, propane. I can't remember. Oh yeah, butane gas. It's just, that's what it is. In a little canister. So hopefully that will work. Let's just check that out. Oh yeah, that's better. It was right on, really titchy. I probably need to bung a bit more in, but I didn't want to waste your time doing that. So what are we going to smoke today on the channel? And thank you for joining me on this. And I hope that you're smoking with me. Do put in the comments the things that you enjoy smoking and sort of whether it changes, whether you do something different in the morning or smoke something different in the morning or smoke something different at night. It's always interesting to see what other people smoke. And sometimes they just put the brand name, but it'd be nice to know if that's particularly one type of tobacco. You know, some people like just Virginias, don't they? Or others prefer something with a bit of black Cavendish in. Well, today, well, firstly, I'm smoking this pipe, which is, I believe, a Peterson's pipe. It's called Shamrock. And yes, it is a Peterson's pipe. I'll give you, I'll do that thing where we go like this, and hopefully, is that focused? No, it doesn't seem to. Hang on, let's try it that way. There we go, that seems to be doing it. And also, I wanted to, before I get going on it, I wanted to do something which you rarely see pipe smokers on the channels do, and that is stick a pipe cleaner down there. You probably have your own methods for doing this, but this one fortunately runs right through. And of course you can open it up and clean it and all of those things, which I'm just going to give it a quick once over, like that. Now, I don't know if you were watching last time, was it, or the time before last, I was talking about Rachel Matthews, who's now become a bit of a pipe smoking sensation on the internet. She was trying out this test to see if tobacco and the nicotine from it was going to be useful, and particularly for her parents. And I'll put the link in the description so you can go and check out her latest. It's been a week since she started smoking, and she's given her views on it. Now, she's only smoking once a day, and because she doesn't do any other, I nearly said substances, but what I mean is not so much substances, but stimulants such as coffee, wine, any other, or spirits and things, as far as I know. So she says, I think she described herself as a clean sheet, really, so she could try something and see if anything had an effect. And she said, yes, immediately almost, she could get the nicotine doing things, which I thought was amazing. Right, so what am I going to smoke? But there was one thing that she, I think, if I've got it right, she left out, and perhaps because she didn't smoke enough, she didn't realise what it was. And I want to know if this is true with you. She may have mentioned this, and I may have just missed it. So if I do, I apologise for that. But before we get to that, Today, this is one of those samples that came to me, and thank you very much to the gentleman who sent it to me. This is a 10-gram sample from Solani. Solani, is it? Solani or Solini? Solani, I think it is. Aged Burley Flake pipe tobacco. Aged Burley, I don't know what age it was. There's a little bit of nonsense in my little leather thing, which I use all the time. I have to say, it has been brilliant. So I'm going to take, this comes as a flake, as you heard. Just going to take a couple of bits, and I'm going to just rub them out. You can't really see very well, but I'm going to rub out a couple of these to put into the pipe. I think that's probably enough. There's another bit of flake left over, so I'm going to leave that as a flake and put that in the pipe. And this is the thing, it's very difficult, I think, for people to approach pipe smoking and in a week get a sense of whether it's right for them. It depends so much on the tobacco, the reaction they get. And one of the things that Rachel said, which made me laugh, because I couldn't understand why she kept inhaling, especially as somebody who's never smoked at all. She says, I can't get past the inhaling bit. And of course, most people don't inhale. Some people do, of course. And then it transpired that she was primarily a mouth breather. Because I said, well, when I'm smoking my pipe, you know, I can puff at it, but I'm still breathing through the nose as normal. And she said, that's where the problem is, because she's so used to breathing through her mouth, you see. But yes, you wouldn't want to do that with a pipe because the tobacco, of course, is very much stronger. Right, you can't really see it down here. I needed to have a table at a greater height. But as ever, I use my little pinky as a little tamper to poke things in. And you get a sense, don't you, if you're a regular pipe smoker, of the pressure to apply. And of course, you can continually test there. And so if you are a new pipe smoker, and I know that there are these new pipe smokers, they come on and they say, oh, I am actually interested in having a go. And good for you, really. I mean, you've got to come to the decision yourself whether you think it's a health risk or a health benefit, and do your own due diligence. Of course, it's not for me to tell you one way or another. All I can tell you is that the nicotine is in tobacco, and it's deemed that nicotine is very good. And I can attest that it's not addictive. I don't feel any addiction. There are days I go past without leaping for the pipe. However, that's not to say it's not habit forming. It is a nice little habit to sit down of an evening or an afternoon or whenever you've got time to just chill out, enjoy the aroma, the taste of the tobacco once you get used to it, because it's an acquired taste, and let the world go by, let your thoughts go by, and drift in the moment. And it's very much one of those things, I think, for those people who like being in the now. Because when you're pipe smoking, you're very much in the now. You're watching the swirling smoke. It is quite spiritual. Some people may say that, and other people may just say, well, it's just a thing to relax by. But it's entirely up to you. Anyway, let's see. I haven't tried this before, so this is always good. Let's get the old lighter going. One of the things Rachel was saying is she had a lot of trouble lighting her pipe. And I suppose lighting it as you might expect if you were observant of cigarette smokers is like one little light and it's done. And of course the paper is holding a lot of the lit properties in a cigarette as it burns down. Of course, you don't have that, fortunately. You don't have those evil bits of paper with whatever they stick in those. And of course, a pipe will go out. And you can keep it going, of course, with this gentle puffs, or in little, well, they're not inhalations, but your little gentle suppings, I suppose it's called, isn't it? I mean, some people exaggerate them, of course. Because you're pulling very gently on it. Now, I can pull in with my mouth and take the smoke in my mouth, but I can also breathe in through my nose, but the smoke isn't going down because my nose is closed off. And I suppose it can be a bit confusing for people. I've never really found it confusing myself. But the thing can go out if you haven't got a regular draw, which is why people give it a puff. And of course, some tobaccos react very differently and are harder to light. And also, if they're too moist, they are harder to keep going. Now, somewhere here, I have my tamper. And of course, a tamper can be anything. This is a piece of dowel, which I've now dropped on the floor. Because I keep losing the blooming thing. The end of a nail with a big flat head would do it. And it takes time to learn, really. I mean, just experience is what it is. You don't really need lessons. It is funny when you see lots of these videos out there on pipe smoking, then they've got tons of these videos, as if it's very hard to do. And you think, well, how did people ever manage to take up a pipe in the old days when all they had was a clay pipe and they were ploughing the land? They soon learned how to do it. See, this is going, there's a tendency for me to want to light it before it has a chance to fully go out. But on this occasion, I don't need to. And also sometimes, and people have asked me this, why do I put my fingers on the top of the pipe? And that's to restrict the air so that the air that does go in, a bit like a hose when you put your hands on it, it makes it just that little bit fiercer, just a bit. And so therefore the oxygen burns more intently just for a short duration, just to reignite it. So now, what was the thing that Rachel missed out that I think is important? Well, not important. It's really just an observation, I suppose. Well, it never really dawned on me personally until fairly recently, but I have heard other smokers say this. And what smoking does, it inhibits hunger. And that was the thing that I think is what Rachel missed out, and mainly because she only smoked once a day and all the rest of it for 1 week. Julia and I, been on tours, giving talks and various things. We've been out in the countryside. We've been doing various bits and bobs. And sometimes, and because it's hot weather as well, and sometimes, you know, if you're smoking a pipe, it sort of inhibits that hunger thing. And you know that people who stop smoking, they suddenly put on loads of weight because they suddenly start to eat. And so as far as I am aware, it's a thing. Now you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I found that actually sometimes instead of eating, I'll have a smoke of the pipe. I then no longer need to be hungry. And what I'm not doing is sticking in sugary, sweety stuff into me and putting on weight, so that I have my main one meal a day. And I might have an apple or a piece of cheese or something else, you know, in the middle of the day. But mostly I just have one meal, good farmhouse meal a day. And I feel so much better for it because I'm not putting on weight and I'm not tempted by chocolates and sugary things. I mean, occasionally, you know, but occasionally is all right. It's when it becomes every day. And you do see these people sitting in offices, so they're very sedentary all day long at a desk, open a drawer, And in order to get through the day, of course, they've taken away smoking inside. And so you have to either go outside to do your smoke, and it's usually cigarettes, which can be addictive because of what they put in the tobacco. And then they're eating all these sugary biscuits, chocolate biscuits, cake, and various other things, which is not very conducive to staying fit. And they're not moving about. So I think that was one thing that I wanted to bring really to Rachel's attention. And I said, Rachel, I would mention it here. And I think it is a thing. But of course, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Now, last week, I was out and about in the countryside. And that was very nice. I ought to have done one today out and about in the countryside because it's extremely warm. We're having a bit of a heat wave at the moment. Some people will tell you that that's to do with this man-made global warming, which I don't buy into. It reminds me more than anything back to summers in the 1970s when I was smaller and younger, funnily enough. You're still going, look. I was getting lazy there. I was going to light it. So anyway, what do I think about this particular tobacco? This is Burley Flake, if I remember rightly. Let me just have a look at the packet again. Aged Burley Flake. Now, I quite like this. And you see, I haven't smoked enough individual types of tobacco to be able to say that that's aged Burley Flake, or that that's Latakia, or that that's Cavendish, or Virginia's, or any of those things. But some people say they don't like Burley. They have an aversion to Burley, don't they? But actually, that's very nice. It is very nice. It's I tell you what, though, it is a bit woody. It is a bit like old logs. Now, I'm all for basic nature things, and that does appeal to me. It's not sweet. It's not sour. How would you describe woody old logs? I suppose a bit peaty. It's an enjoyable smoke, I can tell you that much. So I may be ordering some of this, actually. Thank you so much for sending that in. Solani. So it's got a number, actually. Solani 656. That's what it is. Aged Burley Flake pipe tobacco. And the flake, it's been pressed. So that's very nice. Now, Julia and I are buying some land. What do I do with my piece of dowel? And I can well imagine me sitting on a little bench that we will erect next to an allotment site where we can grow food and be as self-sufficient and self-reliant as we possibly can. It's going to take a long time, several years. This doesn't spring up overnight, to learn how to do that. But I can imagine in the afternoon, after maybe a light lunch of radishes, some lettuce, perhaps some celery and a bit of cheese. Then after having that from the garden, of course, and maybe not the cheese, but it would be lovely to get the cheese, buy some raw milk and turn it into cheese, and then sit with this aged Burley Flake, watch the nature, watch the birds, listen to them, listen to the wind in the trees, and enjoy the landscape. And here in Britain, I know we get viewers from all over. Here in Britain, we do have countryside still. Most people live in the towns and what have you, and most people still really go and spend their money in the towns and spend their time in the towns. But those of us that can or enjoy getting out into the countryside, there are still places, fortunately at the moment, where you can go and sit or stand or lean against a tree and be at one. And the pipe smoking for me outside in the countryside, it reminds me of the ancestors who perhaps were ploughing the fields with an old-fashioned plough, perhaps in the 17th century, 1700s, something like that, with an old clay pipe. Because when I was a kid, at the back of my house was farmland. And that's how I feel that I've got this connection with the farm. And my friend and I, Peter and I, would muck about, play on the farmland. The farm was derelict for a while. And we would stumble across old clay pipes, not complete, broken pipe bowls, loads and loads of stems, which obviously snapped, and the ploughman would just put back into his mouth, carry on until there was nothing left. And to me, it's a very romantic thought, that. And we all live within our minds, so we all have the thoughts that surround us and embrace us. And for me, it does take me, it connects me to my heritage, to farmers ploughing the field. Even though these days we understand that ploughing isn't quite as good for the ground as perhaps it used to be, because the ploughs go too deep and they turn over the microbiome, and so it sort of breaks the connection with the underground network. But that's for another day. Anyway, I think my battery is about to go, so I will leave you. I'll go and check on my bread and see if it's rising. And yes, a bit of homemade bread, a bit of cheese, a bit of lettuce, some tomatoes grown on the land, sitting there and enjoying the view, the aroma of the smoke, the swirling nature of it. How beautiful is that? Well, if you are a pipe smoker, happy piping. And if you're just somebody who enjoys the sort of chats, I thank you so much for coming to the channel. I really appreciate it. And I will see you hopefully next week. Until then, thanks for watching. Take care. Toodle pip and toodle pipe.